mean, I can't imagine living in a city like New York where everybody's in last place. In Los Angeles, folks, we do not get out of bed if you cannot promise us a conference championship. Our teams win on Monday night. They win last night. They win championships. I am so smug this morning. It feels just great to be. They're renaming it to Winners City. That's what they're naming it. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing, Nick Wright. His teams aren't doing great.
Wow.
There's no reason to rub it in and be a
Well, that's Colin.
Yeah.
Colin, I mean, if that's true, so you still have not gotten out of bed for your beloved Clippers because they haven't made a conference championship game ever.
Whatever.
So, I mean, do they count? I don't know. Are they like the Orange County Clippers? I'm not sure the geography of the area. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I've said this before. Analytics, it's like parenting. I read books on parenting. They inform me. They don't control me. Analytics inform me. They shouldn't control me. I watched the analytics control the Rays last night, pulling out Blake Snell. And I think, like America, I thought, I don't understand it. I don't get it. What did you make of the moment?
So this is so multi-layered, and I find it so fascinating. At the very base level in sports, all managers and coaches, and we've said this before you make any major decision, your final question should be, like before you leave the house, did I leave the stove on? The final question should be, is this what my opponent is praying I do? And if the answer to that question is yes, then don't do it. You knew the Dodgers wanted him out, and you took him out anyway. But I think it's deeper on an analytical level than you even went to. Because the defense of this is, well, he didn't go 6 innings all year. All year long, this is what we did. We never let him see a third time through the lineup. Got it. Understood. And that might be the flaw. And by that, I mean this. I'm going to use a cross-sport example. Giannis Antetokounmpo this year won the NBA MVP in part because he did all 30 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists in 30 minutes per game. Colin, he was only playing 30 minutes per game. And some of us, while loving Giannis, said, you know, that could be actually a problem. Because in the postseason, he's going to have to play 40 minutes a game. And if you're not ramping him up for that, if you are not preparing him for that, you might not be preparing your team best for postseason success. And what happened with the very analytically inclined Bucks? Mike Budenholzer said 36 minutes is the ceiling for those guys because that's how they run their team.
Right.
The Rays are very smart. The Rays got further than they should have. Analytics has helped them massively get to where they are. But if all year long you are building a team out to not be able to handle the biggest moments of your year, then what are you doing? So the flaw might not have just been last night. It might have been Blake Snell's third start when, you know what? Let him get knocked around a bit and see if he can figure out how to attack a guy a third time through the lineup because you're going to need him to do that in October.
Yeah, I think it's really well put. And both you and I've said this about the Houston Rockets. I like analytics. But when you get to the postseason, Kawhi Leonard gets me a bucket or a stop. LeBron's, how do you analytically measure LeBron's intelligence with 4 minutes to go in a season?
Well,
Well,
that's the same thing. It's this Nate Silver, who I really like. If you follow his basketball model, if you're a gambler, during the regular season, you can legitimately make a lot of money just following Nate Silver's basketball model. In the postseason, it is worse than a drunk guy on the subway because they haven't figured out. 3 of the last 4 years, he has had LeBron's team an underdog in round 2 of the playoffs because they can't account for how drastically different postseason basketball is from regular season basketball. I think you saw this in the NFL last year. Colin, everyone liked the Ravens last year. But the really smart analytics folks were presenting us with numbers saying this is one of the 5 greatest teams in the history of the sport. And I think a lot of us were like, well, that seems to be a bit much. Like, do I really trust them if they get down a touchdown in the postseason? So there is not a secret sauce here. It has to be some science, some art. And I think someone put it really well last night. I wish I could give him credit. I can't remember who it was. You are an idiot in 2020 if you ignore analytics entirely. But you might be as much of an idiot if you totally ignore the human factor and the art and the feel of these games as well.
So, I said this. We always look at the dissimilar with LeBron and Brady. We know Tom is not the athlete of LeBron, but LeBron's intelligence and innate leadership has always been undervalued, and Brady's never won because of athleticism. They both share a very high IQ, pre-snap, big situational. They're beyond committed. They elevate others, very secure in themselves when it comes to giving the stars the ball or the shot. And I look at Brady today, and when LeBron came to the West, the knock was, the West is just too good. And then about an hour later, you're like, yeah, it's got a bunch of good teams, but it doesn't have a great team. And Brady goes to the NFC, and you watch Seattle and you watch Green Bay, and like 7 weeks later, you're like, oh, wait, NFC's got a bunch of good teams. They don't have a Kansas City. It doesn't appear to be even be outside of Tampa, a Tennessee. And I looked this morning, and I think Tom Brady's going to end up in the Super Bowl. He's the third highest graded quarterback today. That stings for you, does it not? A little.
Okay, there we go. We got there eventually. All right, so LeBron and Brady do have some similarities. They also have some drastic differences. I would argue maybe the biggest is LeBron's circle, his friend group, is at least to my eye one I'd much rather hang out with than the folks Brady hangs out with, but that's a different story entirely. Listen, man, I'm just going to have to let you marinate in this moment. Right now, in October 28th of 2020, your lifelong love affair with Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, not only does it seem to be as strong as ever, but it seems to have, reached new heights. The Bucs are coming off back-to-back dominant victories. Brady has played back-to-back excellent games. He has managed to go 8 consecutive quarters without forgetting a down. He's not yelling at people. It's all great. And so I just have to let you have this moment. Now, do I think they're better than Seattle? No. By the end of the year, do I think they'll be better than Green Bay? No. Am I convinced they're going to win their division? I'm not. But right now, this moment, he absolutely wins the title belt of most surprising story to me of the 2020 NFL season. Yeah. And I've just got to let you have it. So I'm not giving much, but I'll give you that. I'm not putting him in the Super Bowl yet. But right now, this does appear to be, at the moment, one of the rare debates you and I have had where you have the upper hand. I can concede that.
That's the greatest moment in the history of the show right there. Finally, it would be easy to blame Baker Mayfield because OBJ never worked. It would be easy to blame OBJ because it never worked. I'm going to blame Stefanski and the GM. If you watch data and you watched Baker Mayfield in college, when he sprinkles it around, he's actually very good. And when he gets hurt against Cincinnati and sprinkles it around this week, best game he's ever played. His best year in Cleveland, not with the best coach, his best year was OBJ wasn't there. This chemistry is virtually impossible to create. It is so difficult. OBJ should have been traded before the season. When you went out and got Austin Hooper, you had 2 tight ends, a star receiver, 2 backs. This deal should have been made when relationships don't work. The data tells you it doesn't. You always move sooner than later. OBJ has a history of getting dinged up. This is not on Baker. It's not his fault that a superstar comes into a dysfunctional organization and he just naturally feels he's got to get him the football. I would, you would, anybody would if OBJ walked into town. This is on the management of the Browns that didn't see it earlier, move him earlier. How is that for supporting Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to support him. The other way would be, in the final 3 quarters this weekend, he was 22 of 23, 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 fourth-quarter go-ahead touchdowns, and threw an absolutely 10 out of 10 perfect pass to win the game, but it was against the Bengals, so I don't think those count in your official statistical ledger.
They
but
don't.
I'll have to check. Yeah, I know they don't. It's like, hey, these games against the divisional rival don't count because he's awesome in them. I think Odell's a great player. I feel terribly for him that he just got hurt again. I do think you are correct in this. just because a guy is a great player does not mean it is the best use of resources given how a team is built. And I think Baker is better off potentially with, to use a $2 word, I guess, more of an egalitarian offense where everyone gets equal distribution of touches rather than one where you've got to force feed a certain star of the ball. With that said, the Browns are going to be in the playoffs, much to your chagrin. And in the playoffs, they are going to play a team that's better than them, like the Steelers, like the Ravens. In a game like that, the way you win that game is Myles Garrett on the defensive side makes a couple great plays, and your superstar on the offensive side, Odell Beckham, makes a couple great plays like he did against Dallas. That's now removed. So I do think this hurts them against the very best teams, but I also think they probably are better served trading Odell this offseason to a place such as Green Bay where his talents can be best utilized and where they can maybe use those resources elsewhere in Cleveland.
You know what? I'm going to stop it right there because I was right a bunch, and that's happened so infrequently with you and I that I feel like I was on the right. You know, it's just like...
You were right a bunch. I mean, Baker was pretty good. Baker was pretty good this weekend. Meanwhile, I do believe that your beloved godson, Sam Darnold, might be shopping real estate. But, you know, who am I to bring that up here? It's not his fault the Jets are the worst team I've ever seen. Quarterback, what impact can a quarterback have in this league? It's not like he's the left guard. I mean, come on.
Nick Wright, first things first. Good seeing you, buddy.
See you, pal.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.